Well, love and romance has been ubiquitous to Hindi cinema. Yeah, it's everywhere. It works across all kinds of genres. It's there even in films where that's not the main thing, that the main story is about an action hero, but he has a love interest. But there has been a huge investment in romance and love in Hindi films right from the beginning. Right from before the 1950s, although I am my work is on the 1950s, this is a decade immediately after India becomes an independent country. And this is a decade where I have focused my research. But one can see love and romance even from before. In the 50s, of course, it becomes extraordinary and special. And it continues to inhabit all kinds of films till date. But the strange thing is that despite this kind of a focus on romance, scholarship hasn't really taken romance seriously. So film studies have focused on other things than romance for some reason. Love and romance gets this, oh, this is this. Films always have love and romance, right? And therefore, when you're looking at films, you are looking for something more deeper, because love and romance seems very superficial, and it's always there. It's a part of the formula. Just as you might be having fights and comedy, love and romance seems to be just one of these, or various things. And therefore, scholarship hasn't at all been interested in love and romance. Instead, they have looked at films to see whether films are telling us something about the Indian nation, for example. So nationality, nation, is an interesting thing for scholarship. Another thing that scholarship has been interested in is how films relate with Indian tradition. Okay, so that there is a traditional culture, an orthodox culture in India, and how does that come into, how is that brought into films? That's been one of another concerns. The third concern has been family. So family is this kind of an institution that seems to define Indian life and Indian culture, and therefore, not surprisingly, scholars have kind of tried to see how is the family imagined, what is its role, how does it work with creation of certain kind of a sense of identity, and so on and so forth. So in all these so it's been interested in cinema in all these other ways, but love and romance has got until now a short shrift. So it has not at all been at the center of this discourse at all. It has been, like I said, in films right from the beginning. This is just a few images of this investment. Film 54, Aar Paar, 58, Solwa Saal. I'm just taking one or two random examples, but these are, of course, hundreds of films, and particularly in the 50s, they only seemed to be about love. So, particularly in the 50s, you have a countless number of films which did not even have a plot really to speak of. So you had the hero and you had the heroine, and they had 15 songs to sing across the 3 hours. They met, they fell in love, then they separated. There is a misunderstanding. Most probably at the end of it, the misunderstandings are resolved, they come together, or they die. So you had so many films that were so totally focused on love and romance, particularly in the 50s. That changes, and the focus is not so concentrated later on. But in the 50s, definitely that is the case. But this continues even till date, and we have even a film that is really engaging with love today. Love Aajkal. Aajkal means today and yesterday, and today and tomorrow. Kal can mean tomorrow and the past, both. So this film is actually, and we're going to see a bit of it afterwards. So this is 2009. So even today, there is this kind of an excess of interest in romance. Now, love and romance, when it has been studied, other than in Indian films, for example, in Hollywood, and we will say that it is always, scholars always try to connect the love on screen with love outside, like love in real life. So you have any number of scholars who are doing this, that somehow the society and the norms in the society, the changing behavior of people socially outside, and then we try and connect it with what it is doing in films. So there's this continuous tracking back and forth. So cinema and reality, love here and love there, is the concern, is the way in which Hollywood love is looked at. Now the question is that can we do the same for Indian cinema? That can we look at Indian cinema and see, look at this love and try and track it in terms of what is happening in real life? That does it somehow reflect, recharge, energize love on ground, or is it doing something else altogether? Now the problem is that we cannot do this in India, is my basic proposition. That this kind of looking at love on screen and looking at love in real life is something that doesn't work in India. And the reason is that love is not allowed in a way in India. I mean, love is not the norm in India. Things are, of course, changing today, and we may see in cosmopolitan cities, big towns, love has become acceptable among certain number, some people, among some classes. But in fact, I am trying to say that even that acceptability is because of the way how films have promoted it right from the beginning. So films, I feel, have played a pedagogic role in kind of spreading the notion of love. But within Indian culture, there is no place for love. So even today, for example, 90% of people get married through what is called the arranged marriage. And this arranged marriage is by taking into account the family, the caste of, so the family plays a big role in deciding who you would get married to. Even when modern technology is being used, like the newspapers, for example, and you have matrimonial columns, and you will say it kind of states very clearly caste. Or somebody may say that, oh, the caste is not needed, right? But most of the time, caste becomes an important thing. So that's not a normal thing in India. Love is not at all something that is acceptable. I'm talking this very broadly. So you will see now, in the cities that there are people who fall in love, get married, divorce, et cetera, et cetera. It's a minuscule number of people who do that compared to the whole of country. And the whole of country is watching Hindi films. Yeah? And they're watching films which are about love and romance. So this is a strange factor. So we can't do the same kind of thing that one could do with Hollywood films and trying to map one against the other, because something else is happening. Not only is love discouraged, but it is also punished, and severely punished. This is just one among countless cases that happen regularly in India. This is Manoj and Babli who died, or who were murdered because they fell in love, and they married, and then they were tracked down, and then you can see a number of other news items. Now these news items are very, very common, almost every day. these things are happening. These things are, people seem to think often that these are happening in rural areas, but that is not actually the case. They can happen in cities like Delhi. They can happen definitely in cities like Mumbai. So this is the scene about love. It is not something that people accept as a normal thing. It's something that is totally discouraged, which means a lot of things, of course. On the one hand, there is a caste system which says that you marry only within such and such a caste and so on and so forth, but also the structure of patriarchy, the structure of the control of the family, and the denial of agency to young people in matters of love. So it is strange that agency is given, granted, or even accessed by young people in many other areas, right? I mean, for example, when I want to go and study this rather than that. But when it comes to love, somehow that agency is denied. There are also right-wing groups which kind of, organize around controlling this thing that is happening between young people. So, for example, with the opening of our markets and what we call neoliberalism, there were many things that young people were taking, as it were, borrowing from the West. And one such thing was the Valentine's Day celebration. So, which basically just meant that young people were giving each other cards or something like that, right? And I've been in an institution where I have seen what can be only called goons, but they belong to a right-wing party, and they will kind of swoop down upon the college on a particular on that particular day and stop people from doing this, that this is Western culture. So McDonald's are okay and Pizza Hut is okay. We've also had Michael Jackson, by the way, and invited by the same party, which would stop people. So there's this party in Maharashtra called the Shiv Sena, and they play this big role in giving a kind of a red carpet welcome to Michael Jackson when he came to Bombay. They held his show and so on and so forth. But this is a party which will, this is allowed, but if young people are giving each other, celebrating Valentine's Day, then they say this is obscene, we don't do this, this is not a part of our culture, etc., etc. There are also cases where on this particular day or on any random day, the police will swoop down on parks where young people are maybe sitting together, necking, whatever, and catch them. And they often have TV cameras with them. So this becomes kind of national news that somebody has gone down, they've been caught red-handed. So then they will be asked whether you're going to get married and things like that. So, and there have been certain tragedies from this because caught on camera and then the person later on commits suicide and things like that. So this is actually the scene that I'm kind of trying to make you aware of, that this is the reality of love in India as a social fact. So even, for example, sociological journals will have articles on gender, will have articles on sexuality, alternate sexuality, but there will not be any articles on romantic love, because that's in a way not at all a social fact. So, and yet you have films which are kind of steep in romantic love. So it was basically it was this context that intrigued me because I was living this reality where I saw what was happening with students, and then when I was looking at the 50s, I was suddenly struck. I was looking at 50s with thinking about issues of gender, thinking issues of modernity and nationality and so on and so forth. But what struck me was that, well, the films seemed to be doing something else, that they seemed to be creating another kind of an affective universe, that they were not really concerned about so much about creating a national identity, because how can it be an Indian identity if you're loving, right? Because lovers are not allowed in India. So they were doing something else, and that is when I started looking very closely at the 1950s. Now maybe we'll see just a clip. Okay. So this is a clip from the 1950s. This is a very famous film, Shri 420. This is a song. It's just meant to give you an idea about the kind of, the immersion in romance. So a little bit of this song. How do I increase this? Yeah, so that is a typical 1950s song. Black and white, of course. And the words are very interesting. He's asking, we are in love, and then why are we afraid? Pyar hua, ikrar hua. We've agreed to love each other, and then why are we still afraid? What I want to kind of emphasize is, young people are not allowed to meet in open on the streets, particularly in the 50s. I mean, things have changed, like I said. This is not something that is a normal thing, a normal phenomena. And here you have film after film where the public spaces are occupied by lovers to sing of love, to celebrate love. And this is something strange. Now the industry, the film industry, seems to have been completely aware of the commodity it was producing. Its awareness can be seen from the advertisement. Oh. So the films were advertised sensational, glamorous, amorous, love at its best, love that made history, emotion, etc., etc. When boy of today meets girl of tomorrow, that's interesting, right? I mean, the girl is the modern girl, and the boy is, of course, from an earlier period in time. And this is in the advertisement. These are some of the images of advertisement. I've got like crazy things, memorable love story of your lifetime. So it doesn't make sense, but yeah, the industry itself is completely aware of the kind of commodity it is producing. All the advertisements, well, most of the advertisements somehow pull out the aspect of romance, the fact that this is something about love through the 50s. There are hardly any films which can be called what are called action films, which we have them, surfeit today. In fact, we don't have so many love stories or romantic stories. Today, of course, there are more masculine genres that are much more popular, either comedies or action films. There are no action films in the 50s. So most of the films are this, and the industry awareness is very clear. This is a write-up by Kedar Sharma, who is a director, a very famous director during that time, and he writes this article, Cupid directs the film. And saying, as kind of a little critical, a little saying that, oh, these are the kinds of films we make, that there are these Western love stories, there are Indian love stories. Indian love stories, I mean, how can you have Indian love stories, right? But that's the kind of the tenor of his argument here. But even otherwise, like film journals, film magazines have features about the romantic themes, or the stars would be talking about my first love scene, etc., etc. Now, of course, love scene meant, a very distant intimacy. So, for example, the kiss is not allowed in the films at all, right? It's, of course, interesting to know that the kiss was present in the earlier period when the British were ruling India. So in the 30s and the 40s, the kiss was allowed. But as you move into the 50s, what is called an unwritten ban on the kiss. Now, this is this kind of a mysterious ban that people don't understand where it has come from, but suddenly the kiss kind of goes out of films. But everything else is there, of course. I mean, we saw the image, the romance is there, the songs are there, the drama is there. The kiss maybe is not there. And sometimes it did have hilarious, these are two women. And that is strange, right? And this is a picture, it's in a film magazine of that time. And you may not read it. Congress censors won't let a man and a woman kiss, as doing so shakes the celibate pillars of our Gandhian state. But film producers, therefore, decided to put female lips together. And how innocent, right? But I'm not sure this image survived the censorship. I'm not sure, because this is a pre-publicity kind of a image in a film magazine. So I'm not being able to see this film, Chalbaz, and I'm pretty much sure that they would have cut it, right? So, yeah. So given this extraordinary occupation with romantic love, I was not really surprised to find that the cinema in the 1950s is a bad object. The new government, the new nation in the making, just barely tolerates cinema. It's a new nation, so it builds new institutions to promote and to support all the other arts. Literature, music, theater, drama, dance, etc., etc. There's no such institute for cinema. That later on we have the Film Institute in the 1960s to train students, but there is not this kind of a academy which kind of supports filmmakers or something like that, which happens in case of all the other arts. There is an from various sources, various people express their disregard for films. So I came across a speech by the president of the country, Rajendra Prasad, And he, this speech is reported in the newspaper, and he says that, this is problematic. The films with sex appeal, they are going to play havoc with our society. And then he says in the same speech that we have to curtail people of opposite sex meeting. Now, they were not meeting really, right? I mean, actually, not so much intercourse, social intercourse was actually there, but he was saying that it needs to be curtailed further. And then in the same speech, he talks about the evils of prostitution. So, weird kind of linkages where the cinema is seen as this kind of a really not an important or interesting cultural product. So you are, the state is interested in films only because it is an industry and it is, economically doing something, it's viable, but its content is something that is despicable. Now the Hindi film song, for example, which is like hugely popular, is banned on the state radio station, the All India radio station. It kind of is banned for 4 or 5 years, from 1952 to 1957. There are no Hindi film songs on this, the only radio station that is there in the country. Of course, there is a radio station in Ceylon, that is Sri Lanka, and they are non-stop playing Hindi film music. And Indians are able to kind of log on to that or catch those waves. And therefore, by 57, they realize that they are the ones who are losing economically, and film songs again are played on All India Radio. The censor board was extremely vigilant, and any word, any dress which was seen as revealing, that was continuously censored. So there were a whole lot of censorship that was happening of the films. Of course, this is even the film directors and learn, quickly that where it's going to be censored. So there's a self-censorship. So, for example, the kiss goes out. So you know it's not going to survive the censors. So you do that. So that is something that happens. Therefore, what is then romantic love? If it somehow doesn't reflect the social reality, if it doesn't reflect the lives of the people, then well, I propose that it is a fantasy. And it is a specific all films are supposed to be a fantasy, but it is a fantasy of a particular kind of modernity that the films wittingly or unwittingly are producing for its audience. It's a fantasy of modernity which allows young people individuality, it allows young people agency through the film. So using Richard Dyer's revisiting of the common sense view of entertainment as escape and wish fulfillment to, as a utopic kind of a traveling towards a new world, a different world, what you do not have in your life. So films give you that which something is not accessible or available to the ordinary Indian. And I think the popularity can be understood, of this film, because you are a modern state in the making, but you have accepted modern state machinery, for example. So you have a constitution and you are a democratic state, etc., etc. But the cultural life of people is kind of regulated in terms of romance. And therefore, films become this fantasy where I kind of go into another world momentarily. So it's entertainment, and that is where there is a release. So this is what the 50s were doing, was producing a dream of the possible, you know, the dream which was then crucially located in the way you thematically and visually mounted this kind of a spectacle of romance, where two things are utilized. One is the city as a space where the romantic encounter takes place. And of course, secondly, through the excess of the song and through melodrama. So by utilizing these modes, the song, the space of the city, and the form of a melodramatic engagement, now the city was never central to the nationalist imagination. Through the years before, up until the independence of the country, national leaders were invested in the village as the place of transformation. That you wanted to modernize, you wanted to change, but what needed to be changed and modernized and transformed and reconfigured is the village. The cities just happened. You know, the cities were offshoot of modernity. I mean, there was the colonial power, industries happened, and the cities were organized around. Most of our cities are colonial cities. Calcutta, Bombay, these were colonial cities. These are organized around the colonial power, their government, and the industry that gets created around the cities. The nationalist imagination was focused on the village. And for example, Gandhi, like the national leader, he thought about the self-sufficient, independent village. And the village economy is something that you had to develop. Therefore, the city is not a part of this imagination at all. And not surprisingly, we see that the city becomes the space for the exploration of romantic love in the 50s. Cities are, of course, places where strangers can meet anonymously, right? Where cities are places where the community and the family need not really interfere. And it is, again, not surprising to see that most of the heroes and the heroines are young people without families. Most of the heroes, particularly, like the heroine might have a nice, gentle, sweet old father or old mother, but these are not parents who are in any way exercising their control, which they do in real life, right? So in film after film, you see young men, young women, and without families, and nobody seems to ask the question. So in a film like Taxi Driver, for example, you will have the heroine coming into the city, running away from her uncle who is trying to marry her off. So she's alone. And that is the case, like each and every film almost, although there are some films, and we are going to go to that, and films which deal a little more realistically with the possibility of love, but a majority of them did not, and therefore there is this kind of an absence of kith and kin, right? So then there are obstacles still, and these obstacles to love are from some gangsters, some villains, but not social structures. Yeah, so and the utilization of the spaces of the city for mounting a spectacle of romance. Today, for example, those of you who are perhaps a little aware of Hindi film today, a song typically takes you away somewhere, you know, in this kind of a brilliant landscape, exotic places, and so on and so forth. And that actually starts happening from the 60s itself. But in the 50s, it is the regular, ordinary, everyday spaces of the city which are mobilized for romance. And therefore, one more why is this? सुन 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 जालिमा प्यार हम पे तुम So a song that takes place in a garage amidst dismantled cars and tires and tubes and so on and so forth. A dungaree-clad young girl and a boy. This is totally unreal. I mean, you did not have. This is a world of fantasy, where something else was happening altogether. This doesn't represent any reality, any possibility for actual, real young people. But what is interesting for me is that the way it utilizes everyday spaces to kind of, this excessive romance in the daily spaces of the city, where publicly young men and women were not allowed to really talk with each other. And it's, while doing this research, I had to read through a whole lot of magazines where people will ask questions, right? And actually there is a question like that, how does this happen? Because these young boys and girls fall in love, and how come their parents don't object? That is actually a question asked by a fan of to the editor of the magazine. And he would, of course, say that, oh, these are just films, and that's what happens, and so on and so forth. So this is one of the things that is happening. Now, another thing of interest is that because the films were so focused on love, the female, the heroine, becomes very, very important, which is totally different than today. Today you have, action films with action heroes, and the heroine is just like a little bit role that she has. But since these films were organized around the formation of the romantic couple, naturally, the heroine becomes very, very important. And this is a very feminine kind of a form of film immediately after independence. So you've had this independence movement, which, kind of brought out the whole masculine culture of fighting and battle against the colonial oppressors, and you have films. No wonder that the nationalist opinion was totally against the films, because this is something that was, strange. Now, the heroines had a very important role to play in the films, and their occupation of the city also is something that is interesting, particularly in the context where, you might have heard, for example, of the recent, rape case that happened in Delhi in the night. So it is not safe a lot of times for women to travel. But in the 50s, you see this kind of utopic, spatializing of a woman's desire. And I want you to see this clip. Now, this is a clip from a film called Gateway of India. The film is about a young girl who, whose uncle is after her inheritance. She has run away, she has escaped, and the film is through the night. So she is traveling through the night, meeting all kinds of people, going to all kinds of spaces, and the whole film ends at 6:30 in the morning at the Gateway of India. So you have this young girl across the city, traveling across the city. And although she does come across, characters who are not that nice, but the fact that, you also dream of this, that this is a possibility at all for a young girl where she gets the better of all of them. She kind of defeats all of them and then finds her hero also at the end. So, and the spaces that she kind of travels. A small clip now. Sorry about the quality of the film. He's a poet trying to write the first line of his poem. So she's given him the second line. Oh no, this keeps on. Sorry. Oops. Yeah. Now, so if a majority of films were fantastical, were creating a fantasy, as I say, and try and call it a fantasy of modernity, a fantasy of an individual expression, agency, the ability to desire, and so on and so forth. There's some films, but one particularly, which kind of goes to the reality of love in India. Now, this is a film, it has had many versions. It is a novel written in 1917. There have been 16 film versions of this film in various languages. There is, even in the 50s, in 1955, there is a version by Bimal Roy. And very recently, we've had Devdi by Anurag Kashyap, actually. I don't know how that came about. So in 2009. Now, Devdas is a story of a man who is unable to take charge of his life. He is a young man belonging to a landlord's family, and there is his childhood sweetheart, Paro, and he's in love with her, but when it comes to for him to take a decision and to say that he is in love with her, that he wants to marry her, he kind of deters. He is unable to do that. And she gets married to somebody else. She gets married to a man many years older than her. She has children almost her age from this man, like the man already has children. And Devdas then goes to the city and then starts, drinking, becomes an alcoholic, starts visiting a prostitute, and then finally is very, very ill, and finally comes to Paro's house, her gate, and dies on her, at her doorstep. Now this film, it is not surprising that it has had so many kind of versions, because it resonates. Because this is the reality that, and what is interesting about Devdas is that Devdas never puts up a fight. He has internalized this proscription against love so much that he never puts up a fight. So he kind of gives in to the, he's kind of says to his mother that maybe he would like to, marry Paro, and she says, no, of course not. And he kind of immediately agrees because he has seen that this is something wrong, right? Now this film was made in, like I said, in 55, And even in this film, we see that the girl, you know, she's the more modern. And I want to show you one clip where, and this kind of this portion of this film is very interesting because Paro goes in the night to Devdas's room, like they are neighbors. And you know, it's loaded, this thing. That all that happens is that she goes to him and he says that, why are you here? And didn't people see you? And aren't you afraid? She says, I'm not afraid of ghosts. So he says, are you not afraid of human beings? Forget ghosts, and so on and so forth. And she goes at middle of the night. Now this is really shocking, okay, in the Indian context, and where a girl kind of gets up and goes to the man. And she's not supposed to do that, totally. We'll see that. So I don't have subtitles for that, but nothing much happens in terms of, and this is what happens. He says, why are you here? And you know, you should not be here. So Paro is going to the landlord's house in the middle of the night. So there is that man who's just the doorman. And some people see her going. Have you come alone in the night? I'm not scared of ghosts. He's so worried about, has anybody seen you? Servants must have seen you. Why did you do this? He's asking. But he does, after this scene, you know, talk to his mom, but she says, are you crazy? And that's it. Paro gets married to somebody else, and Devdas goes downhill. So this kind of masculinity in crisis is how we have been talking about Devdas, that here's a man who can't, you know, take decisions, can't take charge of his own life, his own emotions, and his own desire. But of course, in a way, I mean, he doesn't fall into line. He goes downhill. He drinks. He doesn't agree with his parents and gets married to somebody they think is better for him. So the love is the important thing here too, that for that love, although he can't say that love, he can't act on that love, he does this other thing, that he goes and ends his life. And this one last so this is her son who is telling her that some Devdas has died on the doorstep.
The stepson.
The stepson. So how do you know he is Devdas? So there were these letters, etc. in his... So this moment of excess, you know, breaking all rules and regulations, she's running out to see him. That is her old husband. Stop her, that she is mad. They are her children, they're calling her mother. Where is this, the whole thing? Because I wanted to go to Dev D in the SIU. Oh, okay.
So an hour, do you want to go?
So I'll just go to that one thing, Dev D, and
That's in this
no, just outside that. So, sorry, Dev D. Yeah. No?
No.
Okay. It won't work?
No,
Okay.
with one?
VLC. So right click it.
So if you can open it and bring it to 23.22.
Okay.
Yeah?
Mhm.
So, so there have been these many versions, and films are different today. And there was another film that was made on using the Devdas figure, but this is a completely modern take on Devdi. So the other versions until now have just kept to the story, and they've been made in different times in different languages. But Devdi actually kind of goes into a very contemporary space and tries to look at, he is once again a flawed figure, but his flaw is not that of Devdas, the earlier Devdas, whose flaw perhaps was lack of courage and lack of conviction and so on and so forth. Where here he is a hypocritical young man who has different rules for the girl and himself, and when he suspects that maybe she's perhaps slept with someone else, he kind of refuses to marry her, etc. Now this scene is the same Paro. In the earlier film, we saw her going to his room. Here, she is going for a sexual rendezvous, and the way she does that. So I just say play. So early in the morning, Paro takes a roll of mattress to the fields. And here is this guy, Devdi, who is angry and mad at her, will not meet her. There's a little note she's left, meet me at the canal. Can there are subtitles, but they're not. They're saying open file. Normally it's a track 1 or something. Okay, doesn't matter. There's not much that is said. He calls her a slut and goes away. So this is one of the most modern takes on the Devdas figure and this problem of love. Here too, he rejects her, like the earlier Devdas had not been able to claim her. And she gets married to someone else, etc., etc. Well, is it time? Okay, so I'll just wind up. Devdi is, of course, not a mainstream Hindi film. In mainstream Hindi films nowadays, what we are seeing is reforming or using the Hollywood romantic comedy formula. So we are seeing that a lot in mainstream films, where the usual the girl and the boy are friends, but then there is some misunderstanding, etc., etc. They part ways and then they meet again. This too, I am saying, is a certain kind of a fantasy, but basically it's a fantasy of consumption. It is no more a fantasy of individualism or fantasy of agency, because these films are, about people who are extremely wealthy. These are films where there is a lot of global travel back and forth. So often they part ways because, well, one is in Australia and one is in the US or something like that. So. This global travel becomes an important part of this film. The kind of spaces they occupy, these are extremely high-end spaces, global spaces where they, they dance to disco music, or the restaurants they eat in, etc., etc. Basically, there are no obstacles in these new romantic comedies. Of course, the reality hasn't changed. We still have Bubbly and Manoj getting killed for falling in love, although it has changed for a small portion of the upper middle classes, where perhaps love is a possibility. Okay, thank you.